continuing to move forward with integers. And once again, it's not in our book, I get that, but you're going to have to be doing some integer work when we get into chapter 8 and we start dealing with inequalities. Integer work is not difficult as long as you remember what to do and ask yourself some questions. As I teach most things, there's going to be questions to ask you, process through them. You should be pretty good to go. Make sure you're following along. Make sure that you're filling out the same questions that I'm on. Make sure you're learning those steps as we go through it. Make sure that you understand this, because this is something you're going to be doing from this point forward as long as you take your math, and I want you to be successful. So our goal is to understand integers, specifically today, subtracting integers. So when we get into looking at these types of problems and we ask, well, can I subtract integers? Then I have to understand that I begin with, no, can't do it. It's impossible. It's kind of like dividing fractions. I can't do it. But in the same way as dividing fractions, I can change it mathematically to a problem that I can do. I can change subtraction of integers into a problem that I can do. It's all about the big S-T-E-P-S. Following the steps. My first step is asking, can I subtract integers? And we just said, no, I can't do it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to change it. 2 basic steps to doing these problems. My subtraction sign in the center is going to become addition. So when I have the big black subtraction sign on the problem, I just make a vertical line and make it an addition problem. But then I have to do my second step. I have to change the sign of the second number. Whatever the second number is. If that second number is negative, I make it a positive. If it is a positive, I make it a negative. Then I look at what I'm dealing with. Once I've changed it and I step back and I look at it, well, then I'm going to see what I'm left with. Well, let's change all of these into ways that I can do it. We don't know what these numbers are, but I know that these 2 at the beginning are positive, these 2 at the beginning are negative. What would I do with those? Nothing, right? Because they didn't say about doing anything to the first number. It's kind of like division of fractions. When I go to change it, I keep the first one. I keep the first one here. Subtraction is going to change into addition, and then I'm going to change the sign of the second number. They show me positive, so I'm going to put in negative. Second one, subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second, so negative becomes positive. This one, subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second. Positive becomes negative. And subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second number. And when I step back and I look at it and I see, well, what do I have now? Well, now I have all addition problems, don't I? Addition of integers. Can I do addition of integers? Well, sure I can. I follow the steps that we did on the last video. When I have addition of integers, I then ask those questions. Do they have the same sign? And if that's a yes, I keep the sign and I add the numbers together. 2 negatives. Keep a negative. I add them together. 2 positives. Keep a positive. I add them together. However, if it's no, then I keep the sign of the largest and then I subtract them. So let's look at what we're talking about. Be sure you're following along on your practice paper. I have 7 minus negative 14. Can I subtract integers? No, I can't. So now I got to change it. Subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second number. So now I have an addition problem. I have a positive and a positive. Do I have the same sign? I do. So what do? I keep it and I add them together. So I end up with a positive, and 7 plus 14 is simply 21. So my answer becomes positive 21. What is 7 minus a negative 14? Well, it's a positive 21. Negative 13 minus 38. Can I subtract integers? I cannot. So I go through my steps. Subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second number. Once again, If there isn't a sign there, we automatically know it's a positive number. So if it's a positive number, there's no sign. All I have to do is show my negative. When my negative is there, and I have a negative in front, do I have the same sign? Yes, indeed I do. Subtraction and subtraction? No. Negative and negative. So I keep my negative sign, and I'm going to then add them together. 33 plus 38 gives me 71. So I know my answer is a negative 71. So this lesson is all about learning the questions to ask, the steps that follow, and then just doing the math. So please stay with me. Don't assume that you're great, fantastic, perfect. You understand it all after 2 practice problems, and you're good to go. I need you to make sure you practice. You get that muscle memory that we've talked about since the very first week of school, and you know how to do these because you're going to have to do them from this point forward in your education career. 8 minus negative 39. Can I add or can I subtract integers? I cannot. Subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second number. So I have addition and my negative became a positive. Then I ask my addition questions. Do I have the same sign? Indeed I do. They're both positive. But there wasn't a sign with the 8. That's okay. Any number without a sign is automatically positive. So I have positives, so I keep the sign. Add them together. 39 plus 8 is indeed 47. So I know my answer is a positive 47. Negative 43 minus 20. Can I subtract integers? I cannot. By 2 steps. Subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second number. Subtraction became addition. Positive 20 became a negative 20. Then I look at the signs. I have addition. My first question, do I have the same signs? Negative, negative, yes I do. What do I do with it? I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to put it on my answer line, and then I'm going to simply add them together. 43 plus 20 is 63. So I know my answer is negative 63. Negative 8 minus negative 19. Can I subtract integers? I cannot. Subtraction becomes addition. Change the sign of the second number. Now I have addition. Do I have the same sign? Now I don't, do I? I only have a positive and a negative. So I have to go to the largest one. Once again, yesterday's assignment of adding integers. My largest number is 19 when I compare 19 and 8. So I know I'm going to keep the positive. Then, when I keep my positive, it tells me, well, they're opposite signs, so now I have to subtract. And I take 19 minus 8, have to put the largest one first, subtracted by the second one, or the smallest number. 19 minus 8 is 9, so I know my answer is simply a positive 9. So on this one, we're going to end up with the same scenario. That second question is going to be, no, they're not the same. I have negative 24 subtracting 43. Well, how did I know? Let's go back. How did I know this is an integer question? Because I have a negative and a positive, or I could say, well, this is a bigger number, so I know that has to be an integer question also. So I'm going to change it. Subtraction becomes addition, and I change my sign of the second number. Do I have the same sign? Well, in that case, yes, indeed, I do. So I'm going to keep the negative, and I'm going to add them together. 24 plus 43. 24 plus 43 gives me 67. So I put that with my negative. I know it's going to be a negative 67. Negative 38 minus a negative 40. Can I subtract integers? I cannot. So I'm going to change my subtraction to addition. Change the sign of the second number. Then I ask my questions, hit adding. Do I have the same sign? I don't. So which one's larger? 40 or 38? Well, 40 is larger, so I know I'm going to keep that sign, and now it's a positive number. So I know my answer is going to be positive. Then, since they're opposite signs, I'm left with just subtracting the numbers. 40 minus 38 gives me 2, so I know my answer is positive 2. 6 minus negative 9. Can I subtract integers? I can't. So I change subtraction to addition, change the sign of the second number. Subtraction becomes addition, the negative becomes a positive. Now I'm looking at my integers and I'm doing the addition, so I ask if I have the same sign. Yes, indeed I do, even though that one doesn't show. I can always write it down, and then I have them both to circle. But they both are positive indeed, so I know my answer is going to be positive, and therefore I'm going to add them together. 6 plus 9 is 15, so my final answer is a positive 15. It's not difficult, right? It should be pretty easy. As long as you ask the questions and follow the steps, you'll do great. Just make sure you're following the steps. Make sure you're asking those questions. Can I add or subtract integers? No, I can't, but I can change it. And I can follow those steps and make it a positive. So every time, subtraction will become addition, and then I will change my second number. Subtraction will become addition, and I will change my second number. So on, and so forth, until I have them changed into something that I know how to do. I know how to add integers. If I have the same sign, I keep it and add them together. If I have opposite signs, I keep the sign of the largest number, and then I simply subtract them, and then I'm done. That's the end of the lesson. It's a quick one. It's easy as long as we pay attention and we follow the steps. Do your assignment. You should have extra time then to make math corrections or ask me for any help on any corrections that you might have. If you don't understand this lesson while you're working through it and you've practiced all these, then come on back and ask.